Welcome to the second episode of the Seer podcast. I'm Hailstorm and I'm joined by Boo. I'm Satan and Modlock for this episode. We're going to be going over week one games, talking about how each team did, who's looking scary, what kind of things you should look out for if you're going to play against them, and then start looking towards week two and what we think will happen in those games. How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're hanging in there, Cotton. Uh, excited to be here. Excited for another week of games this weekend. And excited to talk over some of these things we've already casted and I've gotten to watch over the week. So nice to be able to break it down.
For sure. How you feeling, Boo?
Oh, same old, just hanging in there. Glad to be here though, and excited to go over this week's games.
Sounds good. And the first game we're going to look at is the game that was played between Team Air 404 and Plague Gaming. This one, Plague Gaming took in the series with 2 wins to 1 win to the side of Air 404. One quick note before we get into it. Fluffy Death, the captain of Air 404, is still on the lookout for a support player to be their full-time support. They had to drop due to personal reasons, so if you are 875 or below in your salary, please reach out to him and give him some options for support player.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's look at the 3 games here.
I was actually in game one, so I have a little bit of inside knowledge on that one.
I was gonna say if we're looking at game 1 here, got the who took the win here? Plague Gaming took the win.
Plague Gaming took game one.
Okay. And then 404 took game 2, and then Play Gaming finished out the series with a win.
Exactly. And
All
game
right.
one was Hailstorm top lane subbing in for Air 404 playing the Ornn. Casual
Mhm.
Plebs playing Diana in the jungle. Fluffy Duff had Victor, and they had the Ezreal Nami in the bot lane. For the side of Plague, they had Set in the top lane, a Zac jungle, Kassadin at mid, and then that poke monster duo lane of Caitlyn and Lux in the bot lane.
Yeah, it looks like the Caitlyn Lux was able to take that early game pressure and snowball that just throughout the entire game. On top of having a Kassadin who went 13-1 the first game, building a Soul
With
Stealer.
233 CS. That's an insane amount
A
of crew
little
score.
bit of farm.
Building a Soul Stealer, game one, cocky. I like it. I like the confidence coming out from Play Gaming in that first game. Uh,
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
that.
there's not. It looks like honestly they just had an early lead and they just snowballed it into the later game. I don't like it. Just looks like a team effort. The Zach had 16 assists, 1, 2, and 16. Almost a perfect KDA for a jungler, especially a tank one going with that Radiant Virtue Zach build.
Yep, Vixfer on the Zac definitely did a good job ganking there. There was an early fight that game one in the bot side jungle where it ended up being, I think it was a 3v3 or a 4v3, and Flimsy on the Kassadin actually picked up a triple kill there. It was around the 7-minute mark, I want to say. So that really helped him snowball that Kassadin pick, and then Arma and Mandy Rose in the bot lane effectively used that poke to bully the bot lane and get ahead.
Yeah, if I'm looking at that as a team going against them in week two, not to go completely ahead of ourselves here, but just from that first game, I mean, they clearly know how to take a lead and snowball that into a victory. So maybe take note of that. Look at that if you're going into them week two or beyond. That I mean, like you said, if the Cassin had just got a couple kills and it turned into that, I mean, that's pretty disastrous. Just for one lost team fight. So clearly they know what to do with a lead.
Yeah,
Of all
definitely
things.
agree. Definitely for playing against that team, you're going to want to look at negating the mid laner and the ADC who likes to go very aggressive. In the games where they won game 1 and game 3, both times, Flimsy and Arma did very well.
Yeah, if we shuffle to game two, it looks like Air 404 almost had the same thoughts we had and went with the early game Zaya Rakan, Olaf top, Volibear jungle, just early game scrapping kind of fight oriented teams, and they were able to take the victory in game two. But that's not to say that Arma 17-9 in a losing game on Kai'Sa. That's got to be an 80 carry to watch out for the season. I mean,
Oh,
in
yeah,
a loss, you're doing that well. I mean, that's just a monstrosity in the bot lane.
for sure.
A terrifying 80 carry player.
Casting this game, game number 2 especially, it was so back and forth. It was a really fun game. If you didn't catch it, check out the VODs we have here on Twitch or on YouTube. We got to cast 5 of the 6 games this week, so there's plenty of content for you to watch. But
Yeah,
yes, that I really like the pivot Air 404 made in their bot lane, having the Zaya Rakan. It really
yeah.
gave them a lot more ability to play that bot lane rather than getting poked out. They banned away the Caitlyn, which I believe was a smart idea, and forced Arma into a later game pick. Still piloted very well, but they were able to team fight well. Tartactile was making a lot of great flash pullbacks on that Zaya and got a
Uh-huh.
ton of great plays off of that, and it was really just a very fun game.
Yeah, you could see the KP for the bot lane there since they were able to have that pressure, even though, yeah, the Kai'Sa stats look good and 320 CS, by the way, at 42 minutes, which is pretty good. But, I mean, Doombird with 30 KP and the Kai'Sa there with 25. Or, I'm sorry, the Zaya, rather, with 25. I mean, they were able to actually take that pressure and do something with it, which I'm sure helped. But it seems like they kind of shifted going into game three, oddly, and went with the Zeri 80 carry on the side of Era 404. So kind of seeing that early game worked, and I'm interested as to why they pivoted towards more of a team fight late game team.
You can
Um,
see the side of Plague did ban away the Zaya after game 2, so they were respecting that pick, and they banned away the Rakan in round 2.
and the Olaf.
So you saw a lot of the picks that Air 404
Hmm.
picked up game 2 got banned away and got the
Yeah, yeah.
respect from Plague.
Yeah, they at least got the respect, and then you can see that Plague again really wanted that early game dominance with the Tristana pick bot lane and the Silas pick mid, just for the scrapping and the fighting. And they, of course, went off on both those lanes and secured themselves that series victory. But it doesn't look like a complete blowout, even with uh, Era 404 kind of having to shift back to other picks or late game stuff. I mean, they still held their own here.
No, this was again a very well fought game. The biggest issue here for Air 404 was flimsy fence on that Silas in the mid lane got very big and got to the point where every time there was a team fight, Silas would steal the Swain ultimate that was the support for Air 404
Uh-huh.
and would have that healing plus the healing on his W. So it's just very hard to get a kill onto him and secure that shutdown they were looking for. And eventually that lead just snowballed Play Gaming into taking that game 3.
Yeah, it's just impossible. I mean, that's one of the hardest champions when it's meta, the Silas, to pick ban around, because you're not just looking at what they're picking. You have to look at what you're picking, because if you have a team that is very ultimate oriented, very just death ball, the Silas is a really good counter to that, because he can take, a Gnar ult, a Swain ult, whatever, and just, off cooldown. He has that. So your team really doesn't have that advantage. Plus, he's able to scale full AP and take these ults, so I'm sure that the Swain ult on Silas was probably doing more damage than the Swain ult on Swain.
Right, yeah, it was.
Yeah,
You'd see the Swain ult versus the Silas Swain ult, you're like, one does a little more damage.
yeah, and like he didn't even have to go. That team's very scrappy, and he had enough of a lead that he didn't even have to go Zanya's. It looks like, which is, yeah, it just means that they gave him that lead early, and like you said, he probably just stole the Swain ult and he just snowballed it. But if you're looking at that team or looking at that best of 3, I would definitely say that the main threats are the AD carry and the mid laner from Play Gaming, and this should definitely be the focus of uh, your picks, bans, ganks, etc.
Alright, there are
Uh,
two things for this matchup I want to mention before we move on. On the side
mhm.
of Play Gaming, the jungler Vixper actually went with the Zac all 3 games in a row, so that might be something you look into trying to get him off of if you want to see what other kind of depth there is to the champion pool. Also, Fluffy Death all 3 games was playing Victor, so another champ you can look at taking away or banning if you want to see the depth of Fluffy's pool.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the picks, not only that they snowballed on, but yeah, just what they're comfortable on. Taking somebody off a comfort pick or two makes them focus more on their champion mechanics as opposed to what's going on around them or in the game. And it could definitely lead to you rotating to things first or just out team fighting them.
For sure.
Um, Even if the champion's stronger, just forcing them off what they're comfortable on can make a big difference.
Yeah, comfort is a big thing in these team environments, so definitely something to look at.
But
But with
Era
that,
404, I mean, I have to give them credit. Just one last point, because they lost that first game in 25 minutes, and they adjusted their strategy, their pick ban, and both of the other 2 games went to 43 and about 40 minutes. So even though they lost, they were able to adjust on the fly in that best of 3, and they may have got blown out that first game, but they definitely adjusted well.
yeah, for sure, they were very resilient mentally, and if that
Mhm.
first team fight hadn't happened to get the Kassadin big, that first game could have gone very differently.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
very well played by both teams in that matchup. Definitely would recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it yet. And we're going to move on to the second game played in week 1. And that was the Bear Squad against Team H2O.
Okay. Let's see here.
This was a
Uh,
2-game series that
mhm.
the Bear Squad took 2-0. One of the big standouts, I would say, were from Feynman, who got to play her Aurelia and popped off on it as you would expect, because, always, as we know, nerf Aurelia. And then game 2 got to pilot the Jax.
Is that this is new Jax, right? In this game, like
Yes,
not
this is the
new
new
as in,
Jax.
yeah. Wow, they did a bunch of crazy stuff, but Jax with the busted ultimate, um, that is just wildly over the top, and the E now scales with max percentage HP in terms of the damage it does, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
and it's probably why it's led to a what are we at 35% pick ban rate right now worldwide. um, but yeah, like you said, the Aurelia giving her the Aurelia first game, I think they expected it, but you can see the Silas, or I'm sorry, the set top rather into that, so they probably expected it and wanted to counter pick it.
Right.
Um, but Faye has enough of that experience that she's able to play into those counters pretty well, and that didn't pan out the way they wanted to. So they definitely had to switch and adjust their draft. And they did in fact ban at game 2, but Jax is just insane right now, so that was probably still hard to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. Boo, how do you feel about Feynman's play in these 2 games?
Uh, Bayman always does phenomenal. Any game I see her in, and it's great to. It was great to see her doing really well in the in-houses, and it's great to see her doing equally well in the actual games that we're having played.
I see in the chat they weren't expecting a Garen ban,
Yeah.
so they're hoping to play that Garen into the Aurelia as a counter pick, but got sussed out and got banned away before they could pick it.
Yeah, set is a counter, but it's a counter that allows outplay for the Aurelia, because if the Aurelia just doesn't full commit to the all in, it kind of jumps in and out. The set can't really get a good W off, and then she could kind of just whittle him down and take the kill. But it's only for experienced Aurelia players, which Faye is definitely one of those.
For sure.
Uh,
But yeah, past phase performance, Cookie Meth had a very
yep.
good performance in both games in the jungle.
Hmm.
Very effective games coming out on the Trundle in game 1 and the Mundo in game 2. So definitely a lot of good pressure there from the jungle in those
Get
games as well.
a good counter into that new Maokai nonsense, that full AP Maokai. The Trundle pick was definitely a good pick up there, and you could see it in the KP, the gold generated. He sacked some farm potentially, but he got his lanes ahead and he did what he needed to do. That on top of having a Seraphine mid lane, which is everybody's most hated champion, it seems, in this league.
God,
Right.
awful champion.
And
Remove it from the game. Beard, I know you can hear me, and I still stand with that opinion.
yeah, it's horrible. It should be noted that H2O also kind of flopped roles around and tried some stuff out here for the first week. So they were a little bit inexperienced in the roles that they were playing, at least in terms of what they do in a 5v5 setting.
Yeah,
Um,
there had been a lot of churn in the H2O lineup.
mhm,
Akali originally, when they were practicing, was going to be their mid laner.
uh-huh,
Ended up playing some normal games I was actually in, where Akali and Blitz played AD carry and support together, and decided to make that shift. So I ended up with Poco in that top lane, Yannick Shama in the mid, and KB in the jungle. It looks like moving forward, as shown on the screen, they're switching KB to the top lane and Poco into the jungle. So still a little bit of changing in that team lineup. No
uh-huh.
changes in the players, but still figuring out which role they want to be in and figuring out their full synergy.
Yeah, it's week 1, and so you can't be too hard on them. For some swaps, and then trying to figure out what works best as a team. It kind of works just like I said with the comfort picks on a champion or for a player. If you take them off those comfort picks, or in this case, you switch them to the rules, maybe they enjoy more. Maybe Akali's a better AD carry, but at the same time, you got to learn it with your team and the team dynamics, and you got to be comfortable as to how that works and what your win conditions are. So
Right.
maybe expect them to show up big here, week 2, week 3, now that they've had some time to work on where they want to be and how that meshes in the team cohesion.
Yeah, for sure.
Things might play out differently this coming week.
And as positives for these games for H2O, despite the losses, they did play very well from behind. They spent a lot of the time avoiding fighting near Feynman once she was big, and were
Uh-huh.
looking for picks and got a lot of good team fights when they had a 4v5 or against a 4v4 while maintaining the defensive stance against the split push. So a lot of good things we still saw out of that team, and we'll be excited to see what they bring this next week.
It's a different play style than the other games, or at least in the first series we reviewed, because in both game one and game two, Soul Point was not taken. So that was not a win condition in either game. Um, until like right at the end in the first game. But let me look. Game two. Oh, I guess it was at the end there. Yeah, I could see they took the drag, but it wasn't. It was very scrap heavy, and you can see in game two the supports, Brewbender and Bear racking up assists. So like you said, yeah, like Faye looks like she has a ridiculous, by the way, 323 CS in 36 minutes. A lot of farm, which tells me that they just fought around that bot side, like you were saying, only taking those 4v4 fights
Yep. So definitely
when
smart
they could.
gameplay, and
Mhm.
we'll see how they come this coming week.
Yeah, shorter games, but not complete blowouts for the last minute position switch, which uh, tells me that give them a week or two, let them get comfy, and I think we can expect some bigger things from that team.
For sure. Now we're gonna move into the third game from this week. Yes, we do look at the chat, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them.
Yep,
Game 3 this week was the game between Night Raid Owls and Yordlin Yordles.
Yordlin Yordles.
It looks like they're mad. I don't know what
This
that means
one
for me.
went to a 2-0 win for the Yordlin Yordles. This was a game that went the way Insert was kind of thinking in the initial podcast, where he thought if Yordle and Yordles were able to get an early lead, they would be good at snowballing it and pushing that to a win. And it looks like that was what they did in the two games.
Bentage, we've only covered the first two games. We covered the H2O series against Bear Squad and Plague versus Air 404. Now we're on Yordle and Yordles and Night Raid Owls. And like Hailstrom said, the Yordle and Yordles took both games. I'm looking at it here. 29 minutes and 27 minutes. So actually shorter games than the H2O matchup with the lane flops.
Right.
Let's see here. What is, if anybody knows in chat or maybe you know Hailstrom, but I know with not Yordle and Yordles here, but the Night Raid Owls. I know a lot of their
Mm-hmm.
win condition is around their mid laner, who's a pretty high ranked mid laner, and you could see it in that first game, even though they lost. Pugs are cute there, going 10-2 on that rise pick.
Right.
Um, what is the win condition for the Yordle and Yordles? Is it
This is a team I know the least about, but I believe they have a fairly solid team across the board. It looked like their top laner and their jungler did really well in these series,
uh-huh.
and I think they're just solid at they like to play a lot of early game champions, it seems like, so they look to get that lead and just look to close out efficiently.
Yeah, they closed out both games in under 30 minutes, which makes it our fastest game times yet. And like you said, pretty convincingly. Um, so Goat BM here is our top laner for the Yordle and Yordles,
Right.
which is kind of crazy because he looks like he played Victor top.
Victor top actually is doable, and in that one they had a tanky support in the Maokai, and this is another game where the Yordle and Yordles went Zac both games, so another
Hmm.
team you'd want to look at maybe taking that champion away from them. But they had enough tankiness from those two roles, and then they had an ADC mid in the Akshan. Actually, I think that was mid, and then the
Yep.
Yasuo ADC. So they had plenty of AD damage as well. So they built a team to allow for that Victor top lane, and Victor
Yeah.
top is a very big bully if you're playing against a melee. And in that game, it was Victor into an Ornn, which is a good matchup.
It seems like, other than casual, most of the junglers look to play tank stuff. We have Amumu, like you said, the Zac Spam, and Maokai for most of these teams here. So it'd be good for teams, possibly, if you're listening, to prep for the continuous tank jungle, Zac, whatever, to set up for their laners. It doesn't look like we've come across any jungle carries. They're just playing to their team's win conditions, like you said, setting up the Victor top to be able to farm the Ornn with first strike. I'm sure he got a lot of gold off his first strike that game.
Right.
Just yeah, really good team synergy there to be able to pick around those weird flex picks or things teams might not be ready for, and still just dominate in the team fight and in the laning phase. Although it looks like the bot lane from Night Raid Owls did a little bit better in game two. The Kai'Sa with a 6-3-4 KDA, with a CS lead even into the loss.
Yeah, I think their bot
Um,
lane was doing fairly well both games.
mhm.
Unfortunately, these are the games we never got VODs for, so we weren't able to stream them. We weren't able to see exactly what happened in the games. But it looks
Yeah,
like Pugs Are Cute in the mid lane did very well game one. Had an alright score of 5-7-6 in game two. And then the bot lane basically went 6-4-5 and 6-3-4, so had a not bad performance in both games.
no. I mean that's definitely like I was talking about how Pugs Are Cute as their win condition, but their bot lane looks like they could be the other possible win condition when they're looking for their series this weekend. Maybe being able to play around two lanes, as opposed to just their mid lane, because I know mid lane's hard. I mean, you could see in the first game he was 10-2-2, and he's still not really able to make a huge impact. Then we were able to pick up two turrets, and
Right.
not much you could do as a mid laner right now, unfortunately. So having a couple other win conditions might be smart to get some of the pressure off Pugs Are Cute later into the season. I assume people will start to look to camp them once they learn the teams.
Yeah, for
As,
sure. And a smart ban by Yordle and Yordles. They banned out Kid Boo's main, which is Shyvana.
uh,
So definitely had a targeted ban both games against that champion.
yeah,
But
doing their research for sure. You see the Akali band come out against Pugs Are Cute. I know he's really good at that champion. Um, and you see the triple top lane bans off the start into Goat BM and the Gangplank ban game
right,
one, and then a same four top lane bans into him again. So clearly that guy is looking to be a dominant factor for the Yordle and Yordles. If teams are prioritizing every ban that heavily, clearly this is somebody that we should keep an eye on.
definitely looks like it. And we're gonna look to get some of the games from Night Raid Owls and Yordle and Yordle streamed this week so that we get coverage on every team. So there's a little bit of scouting material for everyone.
Yep,
But yep,
some
don't have
some
too
fun to go
much
around.
insight into the actual games, but that's what it looks like from just looking at their score screens.
Yep.
We'll look at game 4 from this week
Oh no.
1, which was the Ramen Renegades against the Goats.
Let's see here. Where are we at here?
Fourth line.
Is that yeah. Okay, here we go. That's Poe and company.
Yep.
For
Shunpo
Son
is the
Poe and
new
Co. A
captain of the Ramen Renegades, taking over for Daddy Gandalf, who had to step down for personal reasons. Uh, when stepping down, Shunpo picked up Mindless as their new support player. Mindless played a Leona and a Mumu in the two games and looked very good on the engaged supports.
yeah. Yeah, he's actually one of the few. I mean, you see Blitz Pyro playing it in that H2O series with the engaged supports, the Tom Kent, the Rel, but uh, a lot of these supports look to play shield heal, kind of scaling stuff, the Lux, the Nami, the Lulu, but Minos might be somebody to look at with these engaged supports. Being able to force fights and snowball around your bot lane can definitely pick up a free couple wins rather. But it looks. I remember casting this game with you just a couple days ago, and I mean it was just a brawl for both wins. Neither win came easy for Shunpo and Co.
Yeah, these games
Uh,
again, if you didn't see them, these were slugfests the entire time. So again,
mhm.
very fun games to watch if you haven't seen them.
The teamwork coming out of both teams was honestly it was really impressive. I think both teams are going to be threats throughout the season against anybody that they face. They didn't really rely on individual skill. They relied on teamwork, good calls, following leadership, etc. And I mean the games were so close because of that. Game two, Ramen Renegades with that comeback. against the early game. Good start by the Goats there, but I mean, I was really impressed with the teamwork against both teams.
Yeah, honestly,
Uh,
game 2, from how it started to how it ended, the entire game, it looked like it was going to go the way of Goats. They had
mhm.
that huge Kaisa. They had a scaled up Cassidon, but
Yeah,
the Ramen Renegades were able to get a couple good picks off near the end and run down and end that game. But definitely a very close one in both of these games.
yeah, they knew their win conditions and they played to them, despite just chaos and a couple early kills, like you said, on champions who don't want to give early kills to. But Shunpo looking powerful in these games with an 11-4-13 KDA game one on that Yone into a 10-1-13 KDA on the Anivia with almost 400 CS. He's clearly somebody you should watch out for going into the season. I mean, there's just no if, ands, or buts or ways of beating around that bush. I mean, he is a dominant factor for that team.
Yeah, agreed. And having played with Shunpo last season in a different league, his pool is quite deep, but definitely one that can get targeted. I see game 1, they banned out the Anivia. He ended up going for that Yone, and the Ramen Renegades actually pulled out the first AP carry bot lane in the Ziggs.
Hmm.
That worked out for them to kind of even out their damage. And then game 2, they ended up banning away the Yone. They didn't want to see it again, so Shunpo picked up that Anivia that he is very proficient on.
Yeah, that's a champion that's if somebody's proficient on it, I would almost ban that every game against somebody like that because the AoE and crowd control that pick offers in team fights is pretty nasty. You know, mid lane might not be in the most powerful spot right now, but that's a control mage that you just can't let slide if somebody knows how to play it.
There's no
Uh,
reason to change the name, Gandhi, if you just make a good one in 10 seconds. May as well leave it there.
hey, they won with it, so and like I said, neither game was convincing for one side or the other, but it did convince me that both of these teams have pretty good teamwork. And in week one, that's not exactly what you would expect. You expect them to come play around their couple carries and just kind of hope for the best. But like you said, it was a scrap fest both games, so
a
those were
big
fun to watch.
a big help with the teamwork from these teams are they both came from the previous league, so
Uh huh.
they do have some Gandalf. They both have some experience playing with and against each other, so they kind of have that built-in understanding of the comps they can look at. On the side of the goats, Leon Lockhart got to play some of his go-to junglers. He's got the 3 big ones in the Trundle, Warwick, and Echo. So game
Uh huh.
1, Leon was piloting the Trundle. Game 2 was on the Warwick.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, he got
You're
and it
sleeping
looks
on his Master Yi, man. His Master Yi's cracked too. That's the best jungler in our league,
you
man.
know you
Well, I would say that other than one of the junglers coming up.
they they banned the Echo both games, and they banned the Trundle as well in game two. So yeah, it looks like they were kind of on the same path you were on. Definitely didn't want him having some of those comfort picks.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with giving him Master Yi, as long as you play to a win condition that closes the game out before 40 minutes, because Master Yi is kind of a hard champion to play in coordinated team environments where
Yes,
you queue
Sue
in,
is the
get CC
fangirl
one
for
shot.
Leon.
I am not.
Yeah,
How
see,
dare you? I'm a
yeah,
Shaman fangirl. Let's get it
uh-huh.
right.
You're a
Mhm.
fangirl for multiple people. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. This isn't like a best
Okay,
friend. You
I'll
can
give
have
you
more
that
than
one.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, not the worst performance from literally anybody. Other than Shumpo, no standout numbers here. It just looks like they played really well as a team on both sides.
I know Slug in the game on that Udyr top went
Oh,
with the kind of semi-tanky, semi-AD one-shot with the Q build. It was
yeah,
And he
the
still
Triforce
ran at
Bork
Mach 10.
and had both the Force of Nature and the
yeah.
uh,
Dead man's
Dead Man's
and
to run fast, and just was
he
running down people, being impossible to kill. And was very
It's a
scary once
smart
he had those items.
it's a smart build. It also utilizes the Swifties and then the Trinity Force for the extra movement speed the Trinity gives, and then the Borg for the on hits, so you can stick to people. I mean, absolutely cancer to play into, but a good build none the same. I don't think they're only looking to nerf um, the R-Max Demonic Embrace version of Uter, so definitely have to look for him to possibly pull that build out again, because they're not going to hit what made that build good in the coming patches. Although
Right.
I did put it, I don't know if anybody saw, but in general chat, I believe for League, Riot did have a little bit of a hiccup, I guess, with a social engineering attack. So the patches may be delayed. So going into our next couple weeks, the meta might just persist at where it's at. So don't
It's
have to
entirely
look to make any
possible.
changes.
I was excited for this patch coming up, so I'm hoping it won't be too long, but we'll see.
I
Yes,
can't do cancer with Riot now. I'm sorry.
the Vladimir was banned both games away from the Crypt Lord. The Crypt Lord is very, very proficient on the Vladimir and will farm up and become that scary Vladimir who can 1v9. Um,
Yeah.
Definitely a pick you're going to want. If you end up playing against the goats, you're definitely going to want to ban away that Vladimir.
He's definitely terrifying. I got the opportunity to play that in an in-house against him, and he's definitely terrifying on it. He's very patient. He knows when he spikes and what his win conditions are on that champion, and it looks like they knew that as well on Robin Renegades, and they started with the same 3 bans both games. So don't want to give away that Samira, the Vlad, or the Echo over to the goats.
For sure, but I am excited to see
Yeah.
how both these teams do going into the season. It seemed like both of them had some pretty good teamwork, despite the 2-0 to the Ramen Renegades. All the games were very close and should be exciting games whenever they're playing.
Yeah, I can't say anything more. That's all I have to say about that series.
All
Just
right,
excited to see him in the future.
we'll go ahead and get into the fifth game from this
Okay.
week one, which was Team League of Legends against Team X.
All right, and this one went on to a 3-game series. So,
It did.
uh
They ended up being a victory for Team League of Legends, 2-1.
huh.
Um, DMX pulled out that game one victory, and then League of Legends were able to sweep it back with the 2-0 in games 2 and 3.
Yeah, and it looks like no, I didn't watch or I'm sorry, cast this series, but it looks like uh, the first 2 games at least were complete blowouts, one side or the other. 9-24 score line, and then 23-8 score line going the other way.
Right.
With Team X winning that first game, and then League of Legends winning the second. But just kind of some mistakes. This is what I expect to see in week one. You're trying to play around a very small win condition. You don't have that team cohesion yet. You make a couple slip ups, and the game snowballs away from you. Um, yeah, that won't happen as much as teams get a little bit more cohesion. You don't get caught out as much. Understand if your team plays aggressive or passive, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of what I expected to see week one. I don't know much about a lot of these players on Team League of Legends. I know Kazuto is a threat that should be uh, paid attention to. I think he's diamond rank, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yes, that sounds correct. I know that's normally
and
where he's sitting, if he's not there yet.
yeah, yeah, and it looks like in game two when they won, it looks like it's because he in game one he didn't really have a lot of impact. Or at least wasn't allowed to. And in game two, we went 8-2-12 on that rise. And they were able to pick up the win. And then game three, it looks neck and neck. Shorter game actually than the other two, but not a complete blowout. 13-13 in terms of kills. Nobody really popped off. Just I guess it kind of came down to teamwork in that third game. And
Yeah, that third game was super tight. I believe it ended up in what was essentially a base race situation where Grandma Nut on the Nasus was trying to push the Nexus against Havitz on the Ornn, while the rest of DMX was trying to kill the League of Legends base. And it was a very close fight on both sides, and ended up where the Nasus was able to kill the Nexus after I think both the fights ended up going the way of League of Legends, but definitely could have turned out either way in that third game.
Yeah, it doesn't. It looks like it was anybody's game. The team comps are pretty close here. You have the hyperscaling Ornn and the Syndra on one side, and then you have the Nasus and the Victor on the other side, with some good CC and team fighting amongst both teams. So yeah, definitely good champ select from both teams. They're kind of getting that, like I said, that team cohesion together and drafting. Because it looks like the first two games they didn't really draft comps with either team with like a win condition. DMX looks like they kind of drafted that team fight a little bit in game one, but from what I'm looking at, the rest of it just kind of looks like they were playing comfort picks and just kind of solo queue champions and hoping for the best.
Yeah,
Uh,
and in game one, DMX definitely had a little bit of a wombo where they'd
yeah,
get a stun down with the Syndra. They had
and then
an
he just
MF Rel
Maokai
bot,
and
so
yeah,
you'd get all
Rel.
those ults going down and let the MF ult kind of tear through the team. Game
Yeah,
one, there was a lot of very effective ganks in the bot lane for Team DMX. Beard ended up 11, 1, and 10 in game one, and was
yeah.
able to be a huge force in that game. The other two games, wasn't able to get as much love, so wasn't able to become that monster in the 80 carry role.
Yeah, that looks like the Ash Sona coming out from Team League of Legends, 2 games in a row. Their support clearly more comfortable on the Enchantress supports, and kind of just playing back in lane.
Yeah, and
Um,
the Ashe Sona definitely gave them a little more lane sustain to allow them to survive a lot of the early game fights.
yeah, yeah, and Garen picking up the win top lane against a Gnar. That's a pretty hard matchup for Garen, especially because he's not running phase rush or anything. That Gnar can kind of just kite him indefinitely. So
Right.
Grandma Nut definitely. I don't know who that is, but definitely somebody I'm going to be looking at in the future. When you're able to win losing matchups like that, it definitely speaks to your ability to understand the lane you're playing instead of just the champions.
Yeah, and Grandma Nut was looking great in all three games. Had a huge
Hmm.
lead game one. You see it was on the Mord. Went
Yeah,
4-5 and won, but had 300 farm and was just a terror, basically split pushing top the entire game. It was well done by DMX to hold off the split push while they ended up getting enough on the other side of the map to bring that back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, a little bit more teamwork going into week two, and that series could have been anybody's. We'll have to see how both teams kind of adjust. It seems like they were adjusting as the series went on, but adjusting freshly for a fresh best of three coming into week two here.
This was also
Um,
another series where Zach was very prominent, banned
yeah,
in
yeah,
games 1 and 3, and then in game 2, Mont Blanc picked up that Zach and used it very effectively.
yeah, did
So
well. But
definitely Zach's
champions,
been popping up a lot in our league.
yeah, it's a pain in the butt to deal with. It's impossible. The Zac now with that demonic and the Jack shows is just uh, it utilizes a really good champion in every busted item currently. But I would have said look for that to be nerfed next week because that's when the patch was supposed to go out. But Zach might be a pick ban for the foreseeable future with Riot's issues, whatever they're dealing with.
True.
When does Riot not have? They
Yeah,
break the client, they break the meta, they break ADCs. ADC's not even a role.
they're getting around to it. They got Freak on the team now. They're putting a little bit more resources towards it. So I'm excited to see. And they put out a couple apology videos, and they've accepted kind of responsibility for being behind the 8 ball. So we'll
Smallest of
see.
indie companies.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. We'll have to see if they can kind of pick themselves up. What's the old saying? By their work boots or whatever. I don't know. And actually get something done. I guess they're making some new game mode they hinted at, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully we'll
Yeah,
see some effective patches coming throughout the season.
The new one's supposed to be that 2v2v2v2, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, but ADCs are getting mana next patch, so I mean, watch out. Oh boy,
Oh,
I'm
right.
very scared for the AD carry patch because a lot of the items they're buffing are going to work on top and mid lane and jungle AD picks. So look for the Graves to be horrifying, and the Gangplank and stuff with that next patch. So that'll be exciting to maybe see some top laners and some AD carries pop off instead of the it looks like just kind of the mid jungle farm up win condition. Hopefully, we'll see some more aggressive picks come out week 2.
For sure. And I'm pulling up the final game of week 1, which was a big wheel against the Las Nomadas. Here,
Yeah, unfortunately,
Big Wheel in the mid lane had to pick up a sub the hard way, got called into work, and they had Bentage fill in for them, who did a very good job, where they got a 2-0 victory over Las Nomadas.
yeah, they did a great job at, and I've said this with a couple teams, but they did a really good job at understanding that their jungler, this team was kind of all picked around their jungler. He's Masters, if I'm not mistaken, or Peaks Masters. He's a very good
Yeah,
player.
very, very high up
Um,
there.
yeah, and the whole goal is to have team cohesion around just listening to a very experienced player's shot calls, and they really did that perfectly. They played sustain and just very far back stuff in the top and mid both games, and then they played that Zeri Lulu bot the first game, and then the Zeri Nami the second game, and just kind of looked to scale. They didn't care that they lost early game, maybe lost a dragon because their jungler just he kept them calm and level headed, and then they got ahead through the mid game and just kind of deathballed. And unfortunately, I was in those games, so I got deathballed on.
Always
But
fun when you got a scary jungler coming in to gank you. But I will call out, especially Rise at Dusk for both games. Had a
uh,
very good performance there on the AD carry, and Bentage in game 1 was 7, 2, and 13 on his signature Morgana. So definitely, you see Bentage in game, you want to take away that Morgana from him.
those two
I just
deaths
can't believe they even let it in the first game. It's benches.
Those two deaths literally are both from Snare Bopsy getting solo kills. And then he played the team fighting and stuff out flawlessly. Um, it's hard to ban that team coming from personal experience because if you ban anybody else's comfort picks, Hardway being their traditional mid laner, playing more of the Jace and Pantheon, if you ban that out, then you give a Masters multiple 100 LP jungler his pick of the litter to pick anything he wants to snowball.
Right.
So it's very hard to priority ban anybody else other than the kid who is 17 divisions above everyone else.
Yeah,
um,
definitely makes it tough.
but they played to their win condition well. I expect them to be if they continue to play the way they did in our matchup week 1. They're gonna they're gonna be horrifying to play against.
Yeah, it'll be
Unless you can Yeah, the only way to beat them is really the team cohesion and getting like wards in the jungle and the enemy jungle invading and trying to take out that jungler.
right. Just getting your vision on point against this team, especially, will be huge. Because if you can shut down the scariness of their high-level jungler and keep that from becoming a huge threat, then you can take away a lot of their strength. But definitely
Yeah,
very
we
hard to do against them.
we tried the opposite, which was win all 3 lanes and then kind of use that to bully the jungler,
Right.
and they definitely are prepared for that. So they're willing to play picks that lose in lane but have team fight supremacy. Um, like I said, Bentage even on that signature Morgana got solo killed twice in lane, but he doesn't care, right? He comes out the gate 7-2 and 13, doesn't die for the rest of the game. Incredibly effectual pick.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. But
yeah,
definitely, I think being able to capitalize. If you, I think the biggest thing you're gonna need to do is have your good vision down, where you can see the jungler is on the far side of the map from you, and then you need to try to go in and try to capitalize on those hopeful lane advantages you'll have.
yeah. It's it definitely some of these series or teams you'll face off against are definitely win lane, win game, try to bully some of these people. This is one of the rare teams that is very much oriented around teamwork. And if you don't go into that team thinking with that mindset and you try to just kind of ego the other lanes and win, they will kind of surprise you in that mid to late game. It seems like they've been working really hard. I don't know. I don't have access to wherever they practice or talk or whatever, but it seems like they've been putting in work. And like you said, that bot lane was they played phenomenally.
For sure. With that, we finished out the week 1 games, so we're quickly going to go and have a quick discussion if we think there's any MVPs from week 1. I had noted down a couple options from each game.
Okay,
Uh,
hit me with them.
I think from the first game, I would give that one to Flimsy. He just popped off on the 2 games where they won and was a terror in the game 1 and 3 victories.
Yeah, you would definitely have to pick between the mid and the AD carry, but yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think
I
for
could see an argument for both, but that Silas game definitely puts it over the top for me.
I think just he popped off harder for this first week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
he was the sole carry of that third game.
Brett.
So you got to give him that MVP.
Game 2, I had Feynman or Cookie. I think they both
Hmm.
had great performances. Feynman got champions she's comfortable with and used them very effectively, and Cookie had great ganks all along the map.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could give it to Faye, not even because of the fact that she maybe solo killed the top laner or won the lane, but that she made H2O play around not her basically. Like she forced them to play a gameplay style that they might have not been prepared for or comfortable with. But I think I'd have to give it to the jungler. I'd have to give that to Cookie. He's able to get kind of all the lanes across the board ahead. It looks like in both games, and just played a really consistent jungle. Uh, just in both games.
Yeah, for sure.
Feynman did really well game one, but 5, 4, and 6 on Jax. Um, although it's good, I think the jungler supremacy a little bit more important, getting the rest of those lanes ahead.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that one. I'd lean towards Cookie, but I think both of them would be up there. Game 3, having not seen it, I kind of just went off of who had the biggest gold lead, so I was thinking Gold BM looked like had a couple very good games in that top lane.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. I just have to just outright agree.
For the 4th game, I was thinking Shunpo had a great game 1 on
Again,
the
yep.
Yone and a great game 2 on the Anivia, and just was very effective despite how bloody both those games were back and forth.
Yeah, I'd have to just agree again. And Shumpo, or yeah, Shumpo in that first game actually got solo killed once or twice in the beginning and was able to turn that into an 11, 4, and 13 line score. So,
Oh, that's
uh,
classic Shunpo. It's all part of the plan for him.
Yep.
yeah,
Just Shunpo things, nothing new. Nothing
I
to see here.
I definitely agree with that one as well.
For game 5, I was between Graminut in the top lane and Kazuto in the mid lane. Both of them
Hmm.
had some good games. I think Graminut had the most dominating performances in all 3 games,
Yeah,
so I think I'd lean that way.
yeah, I could see game two Kazudo taking that MVP, but yeah, the other couple games just no matter what he played, he was able to match the other top laner and do something with it. The Shen pick coming out in game one, but he's able to become a split pushing monster, take a 5,000 gold lead in the top lane. Um, he's just playing correctly and adapting to whatever they're doing, and for that, yeah, I definitely award him with the MVP.
Right. And then for the final game, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but I think Lonery, or
Yeah,
Rise at Dusk, who also did very well on that ADC. Lonery being the jungler, who is very high up there.
I'd actually give it to their AD carry over after playing in that series over their jungler. Although he's of course incredibly good, their AD carry was able to play Zeri early game and amass leads in both games. She was able to team fight almost flawlessly, only sporting 3 and 4 deaths
Right.
in both games, which from a lower salaried bot lane that was supposed to lose, and not really playing too much with the jungler. You'd expect, okay, they have a Masters jungler, play back, wait for ganks. I mean, he ganked a little bit, but he wasn't an absolute monster until that mid to late game, more getting objective and farm leads.
Yeah,
But
I'd agree.
that,
a lot because it's more expected also from the jungler. And Rise at Dusk, also a big shout out, got the first pentakill of the season on that Zeri in, I think it was game 1.
I believe, if I remember correctly, it was. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll give all the points there. So we'll say it's Rise at Dusk for game 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then overall, I don't know, it's very hard. So I'll just give it to Rise at Dusk because yeah, go ADCs. You need some love.
Yeah, and yeah, especially with that kind of play, underrated for sure. Popping off, definitely somebody to look out for. Able to play that safe AD carry, still kind of amass a lead in lane, and then snowball that with some clean team fighting. So
For sure. All right. Well, that gets us through week 1. We're gonna go through the week 2 matchups coming up. But quickly, I wanted to say we have our TFT tournament coming up. If anyone wants to sign up, that'll be the 27th and 28th of January. It's in announcements for the sign up. So if everyone's looking to play some TFT, get some prizes if you do well, look there. Also in February, looking like the 17th, we're looking to have a 1v1 tournament. So if you're not a team or you're just looking to get some 1v1 actions in, definitely look into those tournaments coming up this month and next month.
And if you lose track of what tabs they're under, Discord actually added this wonderful event feature. So if you just look like where all the chats and everything, you scroll all the way to the top above the AFK voice channel. It says 2 events. You can click on those. It'll show you the dates. The times aren't adjusted yet to whatever time at night, but the dates, the events, and it'll take you right to those events. So you can just click on that tab and see what we got going on.
For sure.
The 1v1 and the TFT are both registered. Might be some prizes or something small behind those just to encourage us to have fun and get the whole community involved.
Yeah, we definitely will have some prizes, and this is another way we're trying to give people not fully on the team a way to engage. And remember, the more you can engage in games and tournaments like this, the more your name will get known, and the more likely you'll get picked up for a team in future seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Past that, quick alleged ad. If you have any Twitch Primes out there or you want to help support the Twitch channel, we use all of that to try and go into prizes for these smaller tournaments we have, along with the actual season. So toss them our way if you have them available. It's greatly appreciated.
Yep, it's literally going 1-for-1 directly to our prize pools. So.
And then again, if you've missed any of the games, check out the VODs on the Twitch channel and check out the YouTube we have up now, which is Valhalla Esports on YouTube.
Yep. Where is a place that they can find those links for the YouTube, for the Twitch? Is there a place we have in the Discord?
I
Is
believe
there a
we have
one-stop shop?
them. Well, you always see the Twitch. It's always getting posted when we go live in announcements. I believe Beard also had posted the YouTube in announcements. Beard, if you're listening, you can say exactly where people can find that.
Yeah, that'll be nice just for people to not have to shop around for links because I know this Discord is very set up and big, and it can get you can get lost rather quickly. But
Sounds good. And
yeah,
Beard says,
he's
I
gonna
will
pin it.
pin it. So just
Okay.
check the pins on announcements if you're looking for any of those.
Okay. Yeah, and then especially you captains and people that want to maybe see their matches and VOD review as a team. Um, it's nice to check out our casts and stuff because it allows you not only your perspective but maybe an outside perspective on what you did right, what you did wrong, etc. So you can scout teams and also scout yourself kind of
For sure.
throughout the week.
And with that, we'll start looking at the games coming up for week 2.
Okay.
So far, I don't think any are set for the additional days. Maybe one will get
Standard
played on
time.
Saturday that we'll get to get a couple extra ones live. But
Nice.
I think most games right now will be played on Sunday, so we'll try and stream one that night live, and then we'll again try to get through them during the week as well as we can.
And it has been officially pinned now. In the announcements tab, you can see you can click on the pinned messages and see the links to your favorite content by Valhalla Esports.
That's right. And match 1 for week 2 coming up is Error 404 against the Bear Squad. I think this one, the top lane matchup will be pretty interesting. Incongruous was playing fairly aggressive picks and was looking to fight. So it'll be interesting to see if he can go toe to toe with Feynman and how that matchup will go. Casual and Cookie Meth in the jungle both looked very good in their ganks, so definitely will be
good junglers.
Definitely will be an entertaining jungle matchup.
They're kind of evenly matched almost across the board. Fluffy and Brewbender, she played a pretty good week one. Casual and Cookie are both very high rated junglers in this league. I like both of them. Aggressive top lanes, and Jerbear. I can't say anything about the support for 404 because it's to be determined. But Jerbear is a pretty high rated support.
Yes, again, if you're 875 or below and looking to support full time for a team, please reach out to Fluffy.
Yeah, he would take somebody with a good attitude and a willingness to hop on board. I mean, they were one of the few teams that took their series into a best of three. So they're definitely not a bad team or somebody you should avoid or not reach out to. They're definitely doing well, even with all the hurdles they've already had to overcome. So imagine what they can do with some consistency.
I am excited to see how Fluffy does in the mid lane for this matchup. Definitely was an underdog in the matchup into Kazuto.
Yeah,
I think we'll have a slight edge against Brewbender, though not a huge one, so I think it'll be a good matchup to watch. And even though Kazuto did get big in the games that were...
Fluffy was against
sorry,
Flimsy,
I'm
by the
talking
way.
about Flimsy. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Against Flimsy, not Kazuto. Just everyone's mixing together in my mind. You're all the same to me now.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, they played the same scaling stuff, and Fluffy wasn't able to get much done.
Flimsy got very big, but even behind, Fluffy was still doing a lot of good side steps and looked very good in those games despite being against someone of that caliber.
Yeah, you put a team behind him and some consistency, and I think Fluffy does very, very, very well. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do into what seems like a more aggressive team with Faye Cookie. They played, the Aurelia, the Jax, as opposed to the tanks top and the tanks jungle. They definitely looked to fight earlier as opposed to scale. So I'll be interested to see the matchup for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'm thinking if Air 404 gets the team, gets some practice, so they get that under pat, and then they find a way to keep Feynman under control, then they could find themselves a recipe for success.
Yeah. Just do
you don't control Feynman. Feynman controls you.
Just do what Big Wheel did to us first week and just play Warwick top with barrier and just sit under your turret.
Right. Just convince them not to ban Garen and play Garen, apparently.
Yeah.
But for match 2 in week 2, the support had to leave for personal reasons. So just they're looking for a new one.
Yeah, it wasn't anything negative, just actual, IRL. We're not getting paid to be here. So yeah, real life has to take priority.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
But for week 2, we have the Yordlin Yordles against Team H2O.
Okay. All right. Let's look here. Let's look at these matchups.
So again,
what are your first thoughts?
This one's a little harder to talk about again because we didn't get to actually see Yordlin Yordles. But again, I think H2O looked good even when behind, where I'm hoping they'll either have a plan to not fall behind, or if they do, they'll be able to stabilize and get it to go later. Because I think Yordlin Yordles usually goes for earlier team comps. H2O
yeah, it looked like it.
We'll have Evebot jungle this week.
A couple questions before we move further into the matchup. Based on this graphic and based on what I'm seeing from week 1, it looks like Goat BM is actually in the top lane, and Omega the Reaper did not play in week 1, but it was instead Evbot in the jungle. So is that a permanent change?
I'm unsure if that was a permanent change or if it was
I believe he was just subbed out this week.
Yeah.
H2O will have Evbot jungle this week, according to the captain of H2O.
Yeah, but that's just a sub. So I think these are still correct for their permanent lineups. If it is incorrect, we'll get it updated for the next time we look at these.
Yeah. I'll have to see how Goat does in the jungle versus the top lane, because he's very dominant in the top lane. We'll have to see if Omega the Reaper can continue that against a jungle player.
Right. But yeah, I think these games will be good ones. H2O is still trading around a little bit where they're playing at, but I think if they can stall out that early game and keep it even, or just close to even, then they can go for a later team comp and try to outscale them. Because I do think Yordle and Yordles usually goes for an earlier team comp.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that game plan more. Especially because Omega the Reaper being a Riven, I don't want to say one trick, but leans that way towards Riven a lot. Mui playing the Yon Yasuo kind of stuff. They like to play
Right.
that scrap heavy, aggressive early game snowball. If you could play a more scaling team fight oriented comp, especially since Yanoshima loves that gangplank and other scaling stuff. Yeah, I could definitely see H2O playing to a later win condition and
Right.
coming out on top here.
And it's one where you, like, if I was playing against them, I would either just ban that Riven and not deal with it, or if let them have it in the first round and counterpick it. Like, you can go that full tank Mayo, who just makes
Yep.
Riven have a
Yep.
bad day.
Malphite also, I saw them play in a scrim one time into it. Also very annoying.
Yep.
But yeah, being able to counter those aggressive mechanical picks is definitely what you'd want to look at here against the Yordle and Yordles.
For sure. But definitely excited to see this game. One we'll definitely look to stream so we get some insight into the actual gameplay of Yordle and Yordles. So keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely. What's our game 3 matchup?
Game 3, we have Night Raid Owls against Plague Gaming.
All right.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
Why do you say that?
Just because Pugs performs super well, and I'm excited to see him play into Flimsy. I think Pugs is somebody who could go toe to toe with Flimsy very well, at least hold his own compared to most other mid laners.
Sounds
I
like a good
agree.
mid
Yep.
matchup to look at for next week.
And I was talking about how Chris Denver did pretty well, and he's against the other carry, it looks like, from Plague,
Right.
Arma Fidelum. So we'll have to, yeah, I agree. I definitely think this will be a good. They're evenly matched in literally every lane. Their strong points are in both mid and AD carry. So it'll definitely be a toe to toe matchup here. Bentage predicts Plague to win 2-1.
Yep, Vintage out here being the what is it, crystal ball seer for us. So,
The fangirl.
he
He's
called out
FanDuel right now.
Yordles 2-0 for the last matchup. We'll see how correct it is. Someone write these down.
Yeah. Somebody
Watch, he's gonna curse them.
the captains of each team could try to predict all the other matches, and we'll just take a tally of which team.
I do think it helps out for Night Raid Owls that they do match up well, where they have their salary placed at as far as the team goes.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking if you're gonna want to beat Play Gaming, the whole idea is to negate Flimsy and Arma as
Uh-huh.
the two main carries. So hopefully their two higher salaried players can help them achieve that goal.
IBM Bao is definitely not somebody to sleep on completely either. They have to get their confidence back a little in the top lane. I saw them playing Ornn and stuff, but I played a couple scrims where they were on the Riven, the more aggressive picks, and they definitely know how to play those picks. I just think they need to get that confidence back to be able to pull those out in the actual games. But that could be a third potential threat, assuming they kind of figure out what they want up there.
Right. And yeah, definitely what you're comfortable on versus getting a good team comp for your team and what you're trying to feel out as they get more
Uh-huh.
practice. And they've been playing like crazy, we already know.
Yeah.
They'll get it more figured out and become a scarier team as the season goes on.
Yeah, they're scrim monsters. Basically, if you want to scrim Monday through Monday, you just hit up Boost Team, and they'll probably agree to it.
That's right. We love to see it.
We got for week 4, or I'm sorry, match 4. Yeah. Screw this week, the next week, and the following week.
I forgot to copy my mic over. All right.
Yep.
For week 4, we have League of Legends against the Goats.
All right.
Another mid laner game that I'm gonna want to watch.
This is one where I hope they forget the ban of Vlad and we can see Vlad and Kazuto. That'd be fun.
Maybe
I just want to see Kazuto play his best mid laner into Crip Lord's best mid laner and just watch the shit show unfold.
It would be entertaining.
Handshake the the Cassiopeia into Vlad. I mean, Kazuto is a high enough rank, you could see them look to bait Cripward into the Vlad pick and hard counter it with something. When you hit that, diamond or upper ranks, you could definitely play around those counter picks. It doesn't matter how good he is on Vlad. If somebody that high rank really knows what they're doing,
right.
It can become just unbelievably hard to deal with. Bentage with the 2-second prediction of League 2-0 here. Just instant.
You think you're
He's
gonna win
Bentage
2
already
weeks in a row?
knows.
yeah, he predicts it before the slide even moves. He's that confident
What
in
if
the
one
League
of
of
the
Legends
teams
2-0.
pick you up though, Bentage? What if the Goats picked you up? Then what would happen?
Yeah, I would agree potentially with his prediction here. Just because Ramanut is a menace in the top lane, and Huss is still kind of feeling himself out up there, figuring out his champion pool because he was a mid laner.
Right.
So there could be a weak point there. And Mommy Senpai and Trinity are just going to look to probably play like the Ashe Sona type stuff, Janna play back. So it could become obnoxious to deal with 2 threats for the Goats, but I think it's going to be a really close match either way.
Bentage said even if he gets picked up, Legal still take it. I like that.
All right.
But yeah, Mommy Senpai and Trinity in the bot lane did a very good job week 1 playing safely. Beard was able to get big in game 1, but game 2 and 3 when they brought it back, they changed up their play style and made it work for the team. So definitely was very good for the 5-man squad. I think a lot will also have to do with how much pressure Mont Blanc and Leon can get out in the jungle.
Yeah.
Both of them have been getting a lot of effective ganks from week 1, so it'll be interesting to see the jungle matchup as well this week.
Yeah, it really depends on how they strategize going into it for sure. Because they could also recognize that top lane weakness, and Leon could look to just play around that, gank level 2 or 3, and just kind of snowball the lane from there, kind of punish the confidence or over aggression.
Right.
So
Pick something that gives good gank setup early, and just
yeah,
try and see if you push as you can't get that first kill on the board.
yeah, we'll have to see what the strategies are for both teams coming into this matchup. But
Ben's coming
I
out with
think
the
it'll be a good watch.
Kazuto diff.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see how the Goats can improve. Like Bench had said, their team fight and their transition into that mid late game. But again, it was week 1, so for the first couple weeks, you expect the coming off the holidays and everything, you expect that team synergy to be a little bit lacking. By the end of the season, maybe not so much, but we'll see how much they've improved week to week.
Also, there was a quick change here for the Goats where Lethal
Okay.
and Challenge Cat were swapped for the last week's game. Now they're trying out Lethal support and Challenge Cat as the ADC.
Okay. Yeah, I've played against Challenge Cat AD carry a couple times. Definitely not a bad AD carry player. So I'll look to see.
Good old critter.
Hopefully that'll be a good. I think that'll be a really close match. I don't. Even if League of Legends wins 2-0, I don't think it'll be a clean 2-0.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be stomps, but definitely could go that way. But
Yeah.
definitely we'll have to see. Here for game 5,
Okay.
we have Team X against Las Nomadas.
And that is, and Beard's probably watching this, so let me go ahead and slander him real quick.
Get him.
I'm just kidding.
Bring out the trash talk. He's not here to defend himself.
Where's the Bentage 4-second prediction for this game? I don't even see it yet. Like, wow, I was able to look at
Beard
the chat.
knows where Bentage lives. Bentage is gonna shut up right now.
I hope. I think this will be a pretty close matchup between us and Team X. Team X did switch since the last time I played against them personally. They did switch their jungle and their top laner, so I have not seen this top laner in action.
Bentage says this is the one to watch. Bentage doesn't know off the bat.
Oh no, he's
And then Beard's
is
brother's talking shit in the
is he-
chat.
Is he questionable or is he
Yeah.
scared? That's the question.
Why not both?
I
Questioning it because he's scared.
I think it'll be one to watch, not just because it's my team, but I definitely think this will be close. In terms of odd matchups, I'm a lot more aggressive top than Reaper might be, but Snare Bopsy looks to play a really passive mid laner into Excellence, who is their highest ranked person who looks to play more of the Syndra and aggressive stuff.
Right.
So
I'm Beard, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I have it flipped where Reaper should be in the jungle, right?
yeah, they did just flop. I can't remember who's who.
Beard will tell us. It's fine. But yeah, I think this will be a close one. Yes, it'll be Havit's top Reaper in the jungle.
Okay. Yeah, the name change. I only know him as McButter Your Muffin, so I've not. I still got to adjust to the new name, but
Right.
yeah, I think I don't think this would be a blowout on either side. A lot of these guys have experience playing in the same league. Beard, Duck Butter, Remy, and Satisfate all have played against, with, or whatever for multiple seasons of different leagues now, so they all know each other's play style. So I'll be interested to see if one side or the other can kind of abuse that knowledge in any way.
I do have one question for you coming into it. Are you guys going to leave up the Seraphine for Beard, or are you gonna ban away from him?
You know, I can't give away too much, but
And then Beard, if it's up,
honestly,
will you play it?
yeah, they left it
Yeah,
up.
it's Beard.
They left it up against him all 3 games, week 1, and he
Yeah,
did
week
not
one
play
they
it.
didn't pick it up.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they've adjusted their strategies to kind of give Beard less about what fits the desired team comp and more about what they're comfortable with. That can kind of fit into a team comp. You kind of have to, as a captain or during draft phase, you kind of have to split the difference. You can't force people to pick too much into just the team comp because then they're not comfortable. But if you're too comfortable, like we saw with Team X's drafting, they have all kinds of random picks everywhere, and then you have no team fight. So we'll see if they've kind of adjusted their draft. And as Beard likes, gets a million ganks bot lane, as was their win condition in week 1 for that first game. So
For sure.
we'll have to see.
Also, Snurbopsy does like to mix it up every once in a while, switching between that carry mid versus a supportive mid. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys leverage that fact as you do your team comps.
Yeah, in every game, scrim, everything we've played so far, they target ban the hell out of Snurbopsy. So I've received a whole 1 ban uh, throughout any of the scrims or series. They really don't like Snurbopsy's picks across multiple teams. So
You get no respect.
I'll be I'll be interested to see what their strategy is coming into us.
For sure. But definitely another one to be hyped to watch this coming week.
It'll be close.
And then game 6 and the final one for week 2 will be
Well,
Team Big Wheel against
this is
the
Ramen
Ramen
Renegades.
Renegades.
Well, this has to be my pick for the game to watch. 100%. I mean, this. I would hope we'd get to cast this one. I couldn't be more excited about a matchup. I just Hardway's team really. First off, we haven't even gotten to see Hardway against the infamous Shunpo.
Oh,
Um,
Dented says wheel 2-0, easy.
yeah, the easy. Now that it's not Beard's game, I see the easy prediction. Um, I'll be really interested to see how their teamwork goes into Shumpo and his team, because Shumpo likes those late game scaling mids. And they had a ton of good team decisions and macro and stuff in that series we casted. So I'll be interested to see how that stacks up against Rise at Dusk, which is apparently just a Smurf. He's nuts, and just Hardway's team as a whole.
I think it will be an interesting matchup. Panda and Mindless looked really good week 1, so definitely will be interesting to see how they do against Rise and Timberland.
Yeah,
Shumpo's going to need to try and apply that pressure in the mid lane while also keeping in mind the enemy jungler is going to be looking for him.
yeah.
Kasante Slug's been just a pillar in the top lane, has a ton of great picks to just become a scary champion late game. And then Tactus usually a very smart jungler, so we'll be interested to see if he can do any tracking on the enemy jungle to try and help negate that scary player.
Yeah, it seems it's almost like one side, like Shumpo's team, really has the good picks here that counter it, but the other team has really kind of showed up in terms of skill and playing to their win condition, and I'm interested to see how those clash. Because I played more aggressive stuff top lane at Attack Alley, but Cassante Slug plays that, like you said, those late game menaces, the
Yeah,
Nasus, and he plays them well. So Attack Alley can't get away with, I'll just play back and we'll scale into the late game team fight, because Shumpo on the Anivia, top lane on the Nasus, they're and Covert even showed that he's comfortable on the Ziggs, so they have a lot of late game team fight answers to Hardway and his squad.
yeah. I think if they won week 1, just going with, hey, we'll let our jungler do it. If you know that and can play slower and avoid those ganks and go for that later game, you can help negate some of that power from the one pressure point.
Yeah. Going into that with a little bit more scouting, we'll see. Like I said, this ought to be. They both won their first week, so this ought to be a really good game to watch.
Yeah,
Definitely would be my game of the week.
I feel like these ones will be very tight. So we'll see if Bentage is correct in the 2-0 or not. We're gonna want to see a little bit of cleaner games. I know Ramen Renegades week 1 was a lot of just fighting all the time and very sloppy games. So we'll see if they can clean that up. If they can, I think this will be very tight. If it is wild in the early game, that'll give Big Wheel a chance to just hit that pressure point and snowball.
Yeah. It all comes down to how much the jungler is able to snowball around his team. So yeah, I'll definitely be excited. We'll have to give that one a watch.
For sure. And with that, we've gotten through all the matchups for week 2, so we're excited to see these games coming up. Thank you everyone for watching once again. We appreciate you all supporting us, and again, toss out those primers if you got them sent around. We will take them. We love it.
Hey, invite your friends, invite anybody you guys know to the league to get on the sub list, even if they don't want to do that. Have them join the TFT tournaments or the 1v1s, or maybe if we get enough of your friends, we could start running in-houses again. We have our league, but I know
you said in-houses,
yeah,
and
see,
Perfy
Perfy, yeah.
fucking perked
See,
up.
If we get
like-
enough people looking for in-houses, we
Yep.
can get them running again.
Yeah, get your friends, get everybody in. I mean, we have our league right now, but captains are always looking to draft for next season and etc. So, definitely a good, and unfortunately, right in the middle of my ending comments is an ad. Definitely good to look out for events, for the in-houses, whatever. We appreciate you guys, but I know some of you who are subs or gearing for the next season might want to do more. So get your friends and let's get involved. Let's get some more community events and some more tournaments and some more in-houses and stuff. We could always cast or look at in-houses just for fun on the weekends, maybe.
100%.
But that's all on you guys. Bring your friends.
Boo, do you have any more fangirling you want to do for Feynman or Leon before we leave?
Just this.
Wow, why am I being called out? What?
No one else. You're not.
Always
Just those
fangirl
two.
for
Only
them.
them. Or any closing words.
No, I'm good. I got
give
my
me-
fangirling out for Queen Feynman and King Leon.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you all. Have a good rest of your night and enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you when we get the next game
Bye.
stream going on. Most likely Sunday, but Saturday if games happen.
Yeah, we'll have to see about Saturday. If you want your game casted, for sure, any day except Sunday at 9 p.m. is a good time.
Exactly.
So pick other times if you can. Friday, Saturdays would be awesome. And it'll guarantee that your game gets casted live and highlighted throughout the league, which will probably lead to you getting drafted more or people favoring you, etc. So would look to maybe move your matches if you could.
All right. Peace, everybody.
See you guys.
Doodle.